Bonjour à tous. I'm greatly honored and deeply moved to be here on this occasion. I was a teenager sitting around the dinner table when my late father and my late uncle, John Kidd, plotted and schemed to leverage Centennial Year into pan-Canadian affirmation, community development, and education. Sometimes it takes a big idea to do a big thing, my father always said, and that idea has shaped many of the strategies I've pursued in my own life. In fact, as a lifelong participant in the Canadian sport and arts community, really the only strategy that I've seen that has worked to leverage important development is a big idea like an anniversary, a memorial, or a major games. As all Canadians experienced last month during the Olympic Winter Games, it really works. The big idea mobilizes governments, corporations, NGOs, and volunteers. It stimulates major renewal and public debates about civic purpose. It excites the imagination, turning pessimists and cynics into believers. It brings people together into a sense of common purpose. What it especially does is it encourages everyone to reach beyond their own constituencies, their own communities, to find a connection with other people. In my early years, inspired by Centennial and my father's ideas, and with the occasion of the 1976 Olympics moving towards Montreal, I was inspired to forge a group that we called the Artists Athletes Coalition, a network of painters and writers and dancers and photographers and videographers and jumpers and throwers and weightlifters and various forms of or kinds of hockey players to get together and talk about common experiences and to plot and scheme about common goals. We learned that we shared much in common as artists and athletes, the loneliness of creation, but the drive to push the boundaries of what we knew to create something different. The bursts of visibility and acclaim when your show opened or you won your race, and then the long periods of silence in between, when the only person who knew what you're doing was perhaps your spouse and your children. The crazy-making aspect of creation in a country dominated by the mega-cultural power to the south and the absurdities of funding. And out of that, we forged a number of projects, plays exploring our common experience, art shows, and a number of conferences, and the tradition of always having arts in connection with major games. Not only the Olympics, but the Canada Games, the Pan Americans, and so on. And what it did, most importantly, is that it brought an end to all the carping that artists made prior to that about the arts are starved while the athletes are getting too much money, and the simultaneous bitching by athletes that all the money was going to the Canada Council and the aid grants that the athletes were getting. And from that point on, you've seen artists and athletes respecting each other's work and working together. I'm hopeful that 2017 will bring that spirit back together and help us make many more of those bridges in the creative ways that we have done on the occasion of these other anniversaries and major games. The sesquicentennial will be an even better big idea than the Olympics because it will engage the entire country coast to coast to coast and not just the region that is hosting the particular event. There will be no international requirements, so we can do what makes the most sense to us as a country and as local communities. It will give us a calendar of 365 days, not just the 17 that we experienced last month in Vancouver and now the Pan Ams there. And it can be much broader than sport and culture. It can touch upon every aspect of our society and every imaginable project of community building and renewal. Like 1967, 2017 could become a transforming occasion. As we heard from the Chief Justice and as we know and live every day, we are undergoing still further seismic shifts in terms of our demography and who we are. We're experiencing bewildering but exciting new technologies every day that's transforming how we connect with each other. We have another generation of youth eager to weigh in and take on new challenges and forge new definitions of who we are. And as we saw particularly during those 2 weeks in Vancouver at the time of the Winter Olympics, there is tremendous appetite still for knowing more about Canada and every nook of cranny of this country. 2017, therefore, must be a vehicle for both large and small big ideas, coming from the bottom up, so that whether it's UFO sites or whether it's something long dreamed of, that communities shape their own anniversary projects. It needs a lot of the education that we've heard about, bringing Canadians of all ages across the country in exploration and exchange. And it needs to stimulate, perhaps with the seed money, more and more of these collaborations across the disciplines. Perhaps we should think about the communities who are not now communicating together and write grants, small seed grants, to stimulate them to do that. It's a very important big idea, so let's make the most of it. It could really transform our lives. Thank you very much.